Welcome to Trump Said What, a new series where we shine a spotlight on the most outrageous, unbelievable, and downright head-scratching things Donald Trump has actually said, word for word. No exaggeration, no deepfakes, just the raw quotes, the real context, and the facts that follow. Because when the rhetoric gets loud, the truth matters even more. Episode 1, Intro, The Most Honest Human Being. In today's episode, we begin with a jaw-dropping statement made by Trump at a rally in Selma, North Carolina, on April 9, 2022. Standing before a cheering crowd, he looked into the audience and said, "I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created." A bold claim. Divine honesty? Let's see how it holds up to the record. This is Trump Said What? Episode 1. Let's dive in. False Claims Tracker. During his presidency, Donald Trump made 30,573 false or misleading statements. This figure was compiled by the Washington Post's fact-checker, who tracked his public remarks from January 2017 through January 2021. These included misleading statements about immigration, healthcare, jobs, and international affairs. At times, Trump repeated the same falsehoods hundreds of times, such as falsely claiming that the U.S. had the best economy in history during a recession, or that his border wall was already built. No other U.S. president has approached this volume of falsehoods in the modern era. Election lies. After losing the 2020 election, Trump repeatedly claimed it was stolen through widespread fraud, but no credible evidence ever supported those claims. His own Department of Justice, under Attorney General William Barr, found no evidence of widespread fraud. Dozens of court rulings across multiple battleground states, including decisions by judges appointed by Trump, dismissed his legal challenges due to lack of evidence. State audits and recounts confirmed Joe Biden's victory. Trump's claim of a stolen election is false by every independent legal and investigative standard. COVID misinformation. In April 2020, during a live White House coronavirus task force briefing, Trump publicly speculated about using disinfectant or UV light inside the body to treat COVID-19. Medical experts immediately condemned the suggestion. The makers of Lysol and Dettol issued warnings against internal use. Trump also repeatedly promoted unproven treatments like hydroxychloroquine, despite scientific studies showing it was ineffective and potentially harmful. His statements sowed public confusion during a global health crisis, and many were later debunked by public health authorities. Crowd size claims. At his 2017 inauguration, Trump falsely claimed it had the largest crowd in history. But aerial photographs from the National Park Service, combined with ridership data from D.C. Public Transit, clearly showed that Barack Obama's 2009 inauguration drew significantly more people. Despite visual evidence to the contrary, Trump insisted the crowd was record-breaking. His press secretary, Sean Spicer, even stated it was the largest audience ever to witness an inauguration, a claim later proven false and widely mocked. This marked the beginning of his administration's combative relationship with the truth. Polling public perception of Trump's honesty has consistently been below average for a modern U.S. president. In April 2022, multiple national polls showed only 29% to 36% of Americans believed Trump was honest. These polls came from reputable sources, including Gallup, Pew Research Center, and the APN ORC Center for Public Affairs Research. A majority of Americans said his statements were rarely or never truthful. This widespread lack of trust in his personal honesty persisted across his presidency and into 2022. Big lie fallout. Trump's repeated false claims of election fraud, often called the big lie, played a central role in inciting the January 6, 2021 Capitol insurrection. According to the U.S. House Select Committee on the January 6th attack, Trump knew his election claims were false, yet continued to promote them publicly. He pressured state officials, the Department of Justice, and even his own vice president to overturn the election. On January 6th, thousands of his supporters stormed the Capitol. The committee concluded that Trump bore primary responsibility for what became a historic breach of democratic norms. Self-pardon claims. In July 2017, Trump publicly raised the possibility of pardoning himself. The idea was discussed in press briefings and widely reported by major news outlets, including the New York Times, Reuters, and ABC News. Legal scholars debated its constitutionality, but no president in U.S. history had ever proposed such an idea. Though Trump never issued himself a pardon, the suggestion alone reflected a view of presidential power at odds with historical precedent and accountability norms. Media attacks throughout his presidency. Trump frequently attacked the press, often calling journalists the enemy of the people. He used that phrase at least 36 times publicly between 2017 and 2020. Media watchdogs, historians, and former world leaders condemned the rhetoric, noting that it echoed authoritarian regimes. Organizations such as Reporters Without Borders and the Committee to Protect Journalists raised concerns about the chilling effect on press freedom. Rather than acknowledging factual corrections, Trump often dismissed critical reporting as fake news. Spiritual irony. By claiming to be perhaps the most honest human being that God ever created, Trump invoked a religious and moral ideal. But his public record of deception, backed by court rulings, government investigations, and independent fact checks, contradicts that self-image. Even religious leaders, including some prominent evangelical pastors and Catholic commentators, criticized the remark as hubristic and false. Honesty, by most moral traditions, is measured by consistency with truth. In this case, the record does not support the divine comparison, fact-checker fatigue. Because of the sheer volume of falsehoods, some news organizations and fact-checkers reported being overwhelmed. In late 2020, CNN, PolitiFact, and others remarked that the speed and repetition of lies made real-time verification difficult. The Washington Post said it had to create new tracking tools just to keep up. By the end of his presidency, some outlets stopped publishing individual fact checks, saying the misinformation was too frequent to catalog efficiently. This level of falsehood is unprecedented in modern presidential history. Closing summary. Donald Trump once claimed to be perhaps the most honest human being that God ever created. But honesty isn't self-declared. It's measured by actions, evidence, and the public record. Across 10 independent categories, ranging from documented falsehoods and court-rejected election claims to public health misinformation, polling data, and attacks on press freedom, the facts consistently contradict the image he projects. Over 30,000 false or misleading statements, no evidence of election fraud, and a majority of Americans doubting his truthfulness form a pattern, not a misunderstanding. This isn't partisan spin. These findings come from court rulings, government agencies, public health officials, and nonpartisan fact-checkers. When someone repeatedly misleads the public and refuses to accept factual corrections, it doesn't reflect honesty. It undermines trust. The record is clear. The claim of divine-level truthfulness is not just inaccurate, it's irreconcilable with the facts. In the end, truth matters. Not because it flatters our leaders, but because democracy depends on it. Thanks for watching Trump Said. What? If you found value in today's video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a truth bomb. Feel free to share this video with your friends and family, especially those who might have a little trouble accepting the facts. We appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you next time for another round of verified quotes and unapologetic clarity. Until then, stay curious, stay critical, and stay informed.